Okay. Now the other thing that I need to do, I need to basically click remove this publish publish step. So I click on the publish, which is another master step, and click on remove. And the reason is these publish are mostly used when you're building a Python package, which at the end you want to create a wheel, for instance, which in our case is not the case. We want to basically only test that. The other step which is important here is going to the trigger tab. So when you go to the trigger tab, you will have two options. One is to do continuous integration. The other step is to pull request validation. So continuous integration, if I enable this, it means that every time I'm merging to the branch, to the master branch, which I actually have provided here, the merge happens, means it is finalized. I need to run a test. But the pull request means before the merge happens, I want this to happen, right? So again, going back to the pull request was I request someone to check my code and then merges back to the parent branch, right? That was the pull request action, right? Do you remember that? So, but merge, the difference with merge was it was direct, right? There was no one interfered in the middle, so it was directly from the branch. You wanted to merge it back to the parent branch, basically. So there was no check in the middle. So what I want to do, I want to basically run these tests when I'm sending the pull request and before that being merged with a master branch. So in order to do that, I will just click pull request validation, enable pull request validation, select the target branch that I want to select. Again, I can just provide multiple. So it means that every time anyone who created a pull request to merge its branch with the master branch, I want to run this test first, right? So I click the branch name, and that's it. So make sure this is not enabled, and only the pull request is enabled.
So could you explain continuous integration part? What does it refer to?
So continuous integration happens at the merge, but the pull request happens at the pull request, so before merge. So one step before merge. So we want to make sure, because merge is too late, it is already merged.
What might be a possible scenario in real life when one does this?
Okay, so when you want to bring back everything from development to the master branch. So once everything is merged, you want to again run some other types of tests, right? So for pull requests, you have potentially some types of tests, but at the merge, which is the final step, you have some other types of tests. So you want to have two different pipelines, one for continuous integration, which is the merge, the final step, and one for the pull request. Yes, please.
But doesn't this, if you don't do continuous integration, then aren't you are you forcing the developer to like ensure that their branch is up to date with master? Because say for they do a pull request, it passes, but then master advances for much further, but there's no conflict, right?
Yeah, so again, one of the concepts of continuous integration, which is not technology, which is like mostly mindset and culture, is that you have to do merge at the end of every day to the master or to the development branch, the branch that everyone is basically working on. So you have to make sure this test for the pull request is successful. If not, you have to make modification immediately to just make sure that passes. So again, submit your pull request again, basically. That's the way it works. So it's not like once it's failed, you just go home and just forget that. It's mostly to just make sure that your changes are basically working as expected. Yes, please.
Question about the unit testing, like let's say you have unit test in your own local machine and then you push it to GitHub. For this, would you have to go to tasks and then add a thing that's not the PyTest that's already existing? Like in the task tab.
Could you reframe the question again?
Yeah, so in the task tab here, we have the PyTest that kind of installs like dependencies and then checks things, but then let's say you have another unit test folder.
So you can actually add another PyTest step here. Yeah. So you can test that first and then test another thing. Yeah.
Okay, that's exactly
Yeah. And also you can have this and sign. So you can add another step here to, again, PyTest folder 2, which is another folder which contains some other types of unit tests, basically. Yes, please.
And again, in a real world situation, who sets up these pipelines typically? The owner of the master branch, or?
So yeah, mostly sometimes the collaboration between operations team and the actual team, development team. So like in software engineering teams, that will be like a lead software engineer. In data science, that will be a lead data scientist who owns the master branch, basically, or the development branch. Again, that should be a very important distinction between master branch and like development branch, because again, it's not really recommended you make modifications back to the master. It's good to change the development branch and only bring development to the master once you're completely sure about the development branch. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just trying to sure I understand. Are you saying that in the real world, when you're working, like making changes, in the triggers, you choose only the basically pull request validation and not this?
If you wait a second, I will basically show you how that works, like to be able to wrap your head around that.
Yeah, I know you're saying don't choose this, you just don't enable. So that's best practice, basically.
That's one practice, yeah. Which is like merging directly to the master branch is not really recommended. It's better to have one pipeline for pull request and another pipeline for merge. So within one single pipeline, it's better not to have pull request and continuous integration at the same time. Create one pipeline for pull request and another pipeline for continuous integration. I will show you how it works, basically. Yeah.
Sorry, one question.
Yeah.
What would be like the best practice for organizing your test sets? So each time you merge back into the branch, you want to test everything, or you have like a set of tests specific for the branch?
So for the branch, most particularly, you want to test your unit tests, especially the tests that you have just created to test that new feature, whether it works or not. So mostly that's the one. But the actual final merge, you want to test all of your integration tests to make sure the entire application is running successfully. There is no break. There is nothing basically breaking the entire application. These are like different sets of basically tests you want to run. Yes, please.
So this is a common setup for like the software application. For, let's say, I'm kicking off a process, the CI pipeline to retrain a model. Is this still best practice to bake the test cases directly in with the model code itself?
Yeah, because like your training pipeline still is generating some code, and your training pipeline should be automated, right? Mm-hmm. So imagine for a particular reason you want to retrain your model. Like your accuracy drops, your schema of your data has changed, which you have thought beforehand, and you have like designed some mitigation to solve like data inconsistency issue. So if that happens, you want to basically be able to run the training pipeline, right? So you want to basically be able to have your training pipeline completely automated. So because of that, you want to make sure the changes that you're applying to the most reliable branch of your application, which is for your training code, is completely perfect and there is no bug in it. So every time the automation training happens, it picks the most reliable branch, which is like, for instance, the master branch, and basically uses that for the retraining again. And one thing which is different from software engineering to here is that depending on the type of machine learning task, the training pipeline can be very expensive. So it's better not to kick it off every time you're basically committing a new change. It's better to make it a little bit more granular. So you can have like some type of syntax checking or like some high-level checks which doesn't kick off the real main training pipeline, or maybe picks a small test data set only to check whether the code is working, etc., and have more solid training on the main data set, maybe once in a week, or once there's a couple of milestones are completed, or one milestone with all of this, couple of tasks are completed, then you train the main train job, basically. Yeah. Yes, please.
Like the training data itself is also part of the pipeline, the repository.
Yep.
Can you speak about that a little bit?
Could you say the
Can you explain that a little bit? Like, how does that work? Like,
The training pipeline?
well, the data.
Yeah.
It seems like that's kind of a port merge
Yeah, yeah.
test kind of thing.
So-
as well.
The day 2 and day 3 will be the actual machine learning pipeline. Today, I just wanted to show you like the vanilla software engineering pipeline. It doesn't have any data. It doesn't have any model to just understand how the pipelines are working in general. And then we'll add the machine learning modeling artifacts and data at the end, because that's like a different pipelines that will be connected to the software engineering pipelines. The machine learning pipeline and software engineering are 2 different things, right? Yes, please.
this context, as these are based off books, will they allow the pull request to be created and merge to be created if the tests fail? Like, or will it, those still, if the test pass or fail, those will still happen? Or will they stop it?
So that's exactly the next thing I want to show, like how basically that looks like and how you can make your decision based on the test that you're actually building.
And is that, and this detail too, is this platform dependent? Because like if we do this on GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket, is that a detail that changes that hook aspect?
That's exactly the same.
Okay.
These are like the Git concept, right? All of them are the same. Like they will have different UIs basically. So GitLab and GitHub are, I think, very close to each other. Super, super similar. Yeah. Do not share it like like Microsoft bought GitLab, so yeah, and GitLab are competitors to Microsoft now. Yeah. Awesome. So now again, going back to check everything is like as I'm expecting. The pull request is done. The variables is set, and the task is basically, yeah. So this is done. This is good. Okay. So now I click on save. I'm done. So now I go back to my GitHub repository. Let's see if I do have any branch. Okay, I've merged everything. So I've pull request everything, merge everything. So let me create a new change and then show you how that actually works. So now I go back to my code repository, let me go to the master branch. So let me go to the master branch. So if you see, my local master branch is behind the remote master branch, right? So in order to get it synced, the command is pull, basically to bring everything back to my local computer. And when you say pull in the master, it means bring everything from master to my local computer. Again, that's like, these are all on the deck. If you like, these are some of the concepts which we need to like a full day to basically talk about all of the commands here. So now I basically change, I want to create a new branch called test the pipeline, right? Now I make some change to this train.py file. Just mention that I want to test the pipeline. Okay. This will fail for some reasons, but I will show you. I will tell you why later. Git add, git commit. So what I'm basically doing is I'm basically making some changes here to the test CI pipeline or PR pipeline. All right. Now it is basically committed, but if you remember, we do not have an upstream for this. So I'm going to app an upstream for it. And in order to app an upstream, I want to basically provide the name of it, which is test the pipeline, right? So I'm just creating the new branch here just to show you how the merge works and how the test will kick off. But if you remember, within the test, we needed 2 things. One, the requirements.txt, which needs to install the dependency, and the other one was a test folder, which inside there was a test commands. So in order to do that, I basically, let me go back to the master, click on new files, which is we go back to the test plan, create a new file, requirements.txt. So I can just keep it empty. I don't have any requirement file, but it can be like different pandas or other types of packages you want to install. And then I want to create a tests folder. Within test folder, I want to have a file which is like test.py. So within test.py, I want to define a function like def test1. And within test, we mostly have an assert statement. So what it does within assert, it basically checks if something is something. If 1 is equal to 1, right? So you want to assert it. If it is successful, if it is okay, if this rationale is correct, it will just do nothing. If it was a problem, it will just raise an error. That there's an error here. So now I have this change in my local branch. Again, I do git add, git commit, added the requirements.txt, and git push. Okay, now I'm pushing everything to the remote repository. So now you see that there's a, so if I go back to the test the pipeline, you will see that there's a test folder and there is a requirements, the spell is right? Requirements, yeah, .txt. So now what I want to do, I want to actually start a pull request, right? So when I hit pull request, what it does, it basically, I want to emphasize, I want to start a pull request from test the pipeline to the master, right? And what it has to do, it has to kick off a pipeline behind this in Azure DevOps, right? So again, in real world, someone else will submit this pull request who doesn't have the merge access, right? They're not able to merge within this branch. So they only can create a pull request. So I submit a pull request. So when I submit the pull request, what it does, it will basically does everything like what a typical action would do. But then when I go back to the pipelines, I will see that there is a test pipeline just kicked off, right? And it happened based on basically right now. Just basically going through all of those tests. I'm now within the dev.azure.com, which is the DevOps, Azure DevOps, and I'm basically seeing those tests. And it failed because of a reason. Let's see what happened. So now again, going back to the GitHub, it is telling me that there was a pipeline has kicked off in the Azure DevOps, and the result is failure. And going back to your question, sir, when I'm kicking this, basically, someone else has submitted a pull request. Myself will, as a person who has the authority to accept this, I can check that this test has failed. And so I can basically reject the request for them to go back and check that. So that's basically the workflow that most of the things will follow. And I don't want this to happen after the merge. I want this to happen before the merge to make sure that nothing is basically breaking. So now going back to the tests. So within the summary, it's telling me that the test has failed. And in the test, okay, for some reason it didn't populate the result. Let me see if I selected the right setting. That's a live demo, so sometimes fails. So
Was the folder called tests? Or because you created tests in there and
oh, yeah, there we go. Oh no, the folder is tests. The file is test. Yeah,
I'm getting a
that's okay.
five.
Yeah, but the problem, no, I have to see the populated results in the summary. Let's have a break now. I work on it and then, yeah,